Oh, I have risen! Elba! I was one chapter off! Couple of chapters ago, I don't remember which one, but I was like sensing the power from beyond, and I was like, Loki will be freed. I think I said 1140. I was one off! Damn it, it was like that time when Back to the Future predicted the Cubs were going to win the World Series in 2015, and then they won in 2016! That was an awesome season, by the way, but damn! It's like, okay, whatever. This is a big one. This is a really big one at the end of the chapter. Loki is tall. Loki's way taller. Picture how tall you're picturing Loki right now. Yeah, taller than that. Okay. This will be One Piece, chapter 1141, titled Older Women. I've read this chapter and I still don't know what that title means, alright? Like, I mean, Shanks' hot sister? No, Shanks' hot sister does not appear in this chapter, okay? So, I think this is just setting up for something later, but I don't really know. We'll get to it. I mean, the term older woman or older women, it comes up at some point. And it feels like Oda's dropping a hint there, like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, bookmark that, that's gonna be important later. But, like, other than that, I don't know, so just remember that term, okay. So, we continue on with Oni Child Yamato and the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage. Yamato really hasn't shown up all that much, though, in the last few installments of these. It's basically just who's who torturing Ulti in page 1. So, the last time we saw Ulti chained to a dartboard as who's who was throwing darts or, like, katanas at her, and page 1 was on the ground. And now you see page 1, who's who has a sword at his throat, and he's beat to shit, and they're about to, like, stab him. Oh no, page 1, if only you had the ability to turn into a massive Spinosaurus at any moment! And if only Ulti had the ability to turn into a giant Pachycephalosaurus at any moment! Well, that's what I would say, but if you were an astute One Piece watcher, observer, you would know that right there you can see there's some sea prism chains on page 1's ankle. There's one of the cat ladies has like a chain that's using like a leash, so he couldn't transform, and Ulti is chained to the dartboard right now. I just really wanted to say Pachycephalosaurus again. Did you know the longest name of any dinosaur is Micro-Pachycephalosaurus? This is a fun little dinosaur fact for you. I miss the dinosaur facts. You know, when we were in Wano, it was like, man, so many dinosaurs, but now I kind of miss it a little bit, you know? Anyway, page 1's about to get killed, so I'm assuming Ulti is going to activate her older sister rage, and she's going to like, oh, hey, older women right there. Ulti is 22 and page 1 is 20, so she is older than page 1. She will break free and probably murder everybody in this entire hideout. We'll see a Pachycephalosaurus versus a saber-toothed cat. Not something I think occurred that in nature, but I'd like to see that, right? Also, Yamato could maybe show up at some point and put an end to this fairly quickly, I feel. Next chapter, I have a vibe on that one. Okay. We actually start off this chapter, we don't pick up right where we left off, okay? I think for the sake of how much everything is spaced out in Elbaf, you know, it takes some travel time to get to point A to point B. Oda has to skip over a lot of that if we're gonna get this arc through, you know, at a nice pace. I don't know how long Elbaf's gonna be yet, but, hey, we're only about 15, 16 chapters into it, and Loki gets freed at the end of this, so we're moving right along. So, we have Nami and Road, as well as the two guards that were beaten up by Gunko in the cloud canoe, as it were, okay? And they are rowing their way away from Aras Castle. All right, so Luffy and Zoro have separated from Nami. They are going down into the Underworld to free Loki, and Nami and Road are taking the giants that were injured back to the village so they can be treated, okay? Nami is throwing a little bit of a tantrum because there was nothing in the castle to steal, which, okay, you can say all you want about Nami's greed or whatever. That would piss you off though, right? Like imagine you're playing a D&D campaign, you go all through a castle and be like, wow, what is there to steal? And the DM's just like, nothing, there's nothing in this castle to steal, everything got robbed years ago, it's a completely empty castle. It's just like, oh, come on, man. It's just like, yeah, nothing, there's not anything, not even a single gold doubloon. And Nami is so pissed, she's like, not even a single giant diamond or massive pearl or a piece of 8 to show for it. This sucks, you know? And we've been going through this castle all day. Now, they did mention a little while ago that they were looking through the castle and like the sun was beginning to set. So I'm assuming it is sunset right now or dusk. Like it's getting close to like the end of the day is what I would assume. They're heading back to the banquet and we're going to see Brooke and Usopp later and they're drunk as shit. So I'm assuming it's like getting near the end of the day here, which makes everything way more dramatic from what we're going to see at the end of the chapter, right? So Road is there and he's just like, Nami Tasso, could you please not be yelling these things as loud as you are about like trying to rob the entire castle blind? You know, the 2 guards to protect it are right here, right? And the 2 guards are there and they're all, you know, they're injured, so they're kind of like fading in and out of consciousness, but they're like, what? What's that? You wanted to steal a giant diamond? And they're like, oh, no, she didn't say diamond. And then Nami is just like, I don't even care about that monster Loki. And they're like, Loki? Why would you be talking about Loki? No, it's nothing about this. It's cool. Nami Tasso, please. Hey, Nami's pissed, all right? And she's going to make that known to everybody, so yeah. There's like, just lay back, guys, and get some rest. Like, where is my treasure? It's okay, Nami, there's other castles. We'll find you treasure. He doesn't say that, but I assume there would be other castles. I'm assuming there's other places there's treasure, you know? Okay, so we're now cutting back to the treasure tree Atom where Franky is getting his tour by Ripley. They're walking around and you know, we already kind of knew some of this. You know, Franky just kind of brings it up like, man, this place is massive. There's a lot of history here. I hope Franky took a screenshot of that mural. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like they have Den Mushies that could take pictures. Yeah, sure. Hold on a minute, Ripley. I want to like make a quick sketch. Make a quick sketch of this mural. If I could do it, Franky could do it. He's like, all right, we have this. I'll show that to Robin later. Okay, well anyway, wow, this place is really big. So you guys just live on this giant tree, huh? Is that just kind of how it works? And Ripley is like, yeah, each branch of this tree has a really long and storied history, you know? Entire villages have been built on top of these branches, and they're passing by a branch that has very clearly been severed, okay? It's been cut with like a saw or some kind of bladed weapon, like it's not natural, and so Franky points it out, and she's like, well, what's up with that one over there? And Ripley says, oh, that's where Haugen village used to be. Probably mispronouncing that, but it used to be a village, but unfortunately, the tree got struck by lightning at one point and caught fire, and the whole village caught fire. And because the Atom tree, this particular Atom tree, is the oldest in the world, and it's essentially petrified wood. Like, remember the sand that exists around the Warrior Spring? That's just the wood of the tree that's been petrified and fossilized and, you know, like turned into powder. It's not really sand. Well, I guess it is, but just not like out of minerals like rocks and stuff or shells. It's made out of wood, right? So, you know, you can't put out the fire when that petrified wood is burning really hot, right? You can't put out the fire. So they had no choice but to sever the entire branch, cutting off an entire village, because if they didn't, the flame would have spread to the entirety of all of the trees. So the entire Yggdrasil is a massive fire hazard. They just, thank God they don't have the fire inspector here right now. He would just have a heart attack immediately at this, right? Okay? So, the entire tree can be lit on fire. This is bad. That's not good. And Ripley even says, like, ah yes, Elbaf's greatest weakness, fire and lightning. I wonder if Eneru has anything to say about that. Okay, you know what? Some people were, I was under the impression Elbaf was going to be the arc where Eneru returns because lightning, Thor, you know, god of thunder and lightning. I was assuming that. Some people were like not 100% sold on that. They were like, I don't know about this. Why would Eneru show up now? He's like the Elbaf's greatest weaknesses, fire and lightning. Okay, so Sabo's gonna show up, Akainu's gonna show up, Bill from the Silvermine arc, he's gonna show up. Who is the guy, the Mafia dude from the Ice Hunter arc? That guy, Donacino, he's gonna show up. Bear King from the second One Piece movie, Clockwork Island Adventure, he could control fire. He's gonna show up. Oven's gonna show up. They're all gonna show up, and Eneru's gonna be there as well, and they're gonna light the entire place on fire. Ace is gonna come back from the dead just for this alone. Well, they haven't gotten to the Heaven Lair yet, so maybe Ace's ghost might be up there. I don't know how the Heaven Lair is gonna work, right? Or the Celestial Lair. But yeah, so they mentioned, like, yeah, when it catches on fire, we really can't put it out. So I'm assuming there's very firm, like, forest fire ordinances in place. Like, I don't have any giants we've seen been smoking cigarettes or cigars, because I feel like that would be a big no-no on this entire tree, right? And Franky can spit fire. He has his Franky fireball ability. So, you know, and Luffy can, you know, start fires. Like Zoro could start fires. Yeah, how many of the Straw Hats have fire-based abilities? Okay, Luffy has Red Hawk and like Hawk Gatling. Zoro has his Blaze technique he used to defeat Ryuma. That can start fires. Nami, of course, could start fires with lightning. Usopp has a fire star. Oh my god, they can all start fires. Franky has a fire ability. Can Chopper start a fire? I don't know. Sometimes he uses that ability with his hooves, and he hits like a Rosario Michieri hits you really hard. Maybe the friction of that could start a fire. Let's see. Brook is ice. Brook is ice. Okay, Brook might be the counter to this. Jinbei cannot start fires unless he can like light the water on fire. That would be badass, but I don't think he could do that. I don't think Robin can start any fires. Sanji has Diablo Jambe and Ifrit Jambe. He can start a fire. Okay, so just like dial it back a little bit, guys, on the fire-based moves. Okay, that's not gonna be good here. Okay, so this is all that scene was. Literally, that scene was, wow, it's crazy. What happened there? Oh, a branch got lit on fire with lightning. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. Fire and lightning, really bad on this tree. That was the point of that. So bookmark that as well. Push the bookmark. We're going to need that. All right. Back to the Western Village now. Like I said, we're moving around here. So Nami gets back to the banquet. Usopp is drunk as a skunk. He's just like, oh, hey, Nami, where'd you sneak off to? And Nami's like, oh, you know, I was just around. Where's Zoro and Luffy? Haven't seen them. He's like, yeah, they're probably out exploring. You know them, right? Oh, yeah. And so Usopp grabs Nami and kind of like, you know, goes over to Yorl. You know, Elder Yorl is sitting away. Yorl or Jarl? Which one? Damn it, I think I actually have forgotten which one it is. Jarl, it's Jarl, okay. So Elder Jarl, yeah, Yorl is dead, okay. So Jarl is there, dude that has a sword in his head, right? And Usopp is like, hey, old man, check it out. This is our navigator, right? You know, and Jarl is like, oh, wow, she's a real beauty. You know, and it's like, oh, you like her, huh? Well, what's your type, old man? Is she your type? Okay, first of all, Nami is everybody's type, but also is like, hey, what's your type, old man? And Jarl, listen. I've been reviewing One Piece for a long time, ladies and gentlemen, all right? So I really need you to understand this. Usopp asks Jarl what his type of woman is, and then we have an entire panel dramatic zoom in to Jarl's face. All right, dramatic zoom. Extreme close up. And he just says, with a sword sticking out of his head, just like, I'm into older women. Now, I would just say that's a joke. He just says older women as like a gag or something. But the title of the chapter is Older Women. And we don't see, like, later in this chapter, we don't see, like, an older woman up here or something like that, like, really dramatic or anything like that. Oh, trust me, the end of this chapter is dramatic as hell, but we don't see that, okay? So just really pay attention to that. That's going to be very, very important because Jarl is over 400 years old, okay? Okay. So, and it was even stated he is the oldest giant in the entire world. Usopp, immediately upon hearing this, like, I'm into older women. Usopp, drunk, is just like, oh, you're the oldest guy in the world. There's nobody older than you anyway. And then so Usopp runs up and smacks the sword. Like, and keep in mind, Usopp is tiny, and Jarl is bigger, like twice as big as Broggy and Dory, like bigger giants, okay? Like, so he's a huge dude. So Usopp, this human, just like casually just taps the hilt of the sword, and it just like probably vibrates a little bit, and that causes Jarl intense pain. He's like, ah! He's like, Elder Jarl, no! And like Dory grabs Usopp. He's like, Usopp, don't touch his sword! You know? And so Usopp's still drunk, and he's like, anybody want to pull out Excalibur and be the king of the world, right? And they're like, if you pull it out, he'll die of blood loss. It's like, okay, so the sword does hurt him. That's interesting. All right, guys. Let's have a meeting. Let's have a meeting. The meeting of the 7 Knights of the Round Table or whatever. Okay. So Jarl's talking about right? Like Emu, right? Like, okay. Let's just go over this here. Jarl, here are the facts. Jarl is over 400 years old. He is 408 years old, if I remember correctly. All right. How many people, how many beings in this world could be older than Jarl? There's not very many. It's a pretty short list, okay? The Gorosei, you could say. I don't think any of the Gorosei qualify as older women, though. I don't know. I know Shepherd Jupiter. He might have. He's the sexiest out of all the Gorosei, clearly. Who's the sexiest out of the Gorosei? I don't know. Garling is now a member, so, you know, who knows. But I don't think he was referring to any of the old dudes, okay? Like, literally, who else would it be, though? Like, who else could it be? Right? Like, it would have to be Emu. It would have to be. Right? Like, if this is supposed to be not a joke, if this is supposed to be serious, like Jarl is thinking about the kind of women he's into, and he's thinking about it like, I like older women. It's like, all right, the only person that would qualify would be the shadowy, mysterious, immortal being that we know was around during the Void Century around 800, 900 years ago, that we don't know who they are, or, you know, because, you know, shadowy silhouette being, and that's Emu. All right? Like, unless we find out somebody else is alive somewhere, you know, like oh, it turns out Nefeltari D. Lily was alive the whole time, and she's like 900 years old. Like, maybe, but like, it was specifically stated in the title card, he is the oldest giant. There is no other giant that's older than him. Maybe ancient giant, maybe there's a big, you know, ancient giant woman that's like 800 years old stomping around out there. You know, Orz's grandma or something, like, I don't know. But other than that, oh God, Orz's grandmother, oh man, she would have laid absolute death and devastation everywhere she went. But like, other than that, I can't. Or maybe Kaido's grandmother. Oh, Kaido's grandmother. It would have been rough growing up. You know, he would have. Yeah, I could see where Kaido ended up. You know, considering. Now Kaido was an orphan. That's just. You know, Kaido didn't have a grandmother. Kaido didn't have parents. He was an orphan raised as a super soldier. Man, you gotta read your One Piece. But like, yeah. We're going along with the idea that Emu is like a super hot lady. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's roll with that. Super hot immortal lady from like the Void Century. That was a theory for a long time there. There's been some fan art, so like let's just go with that. Why not, right? Okay, sure. And the idea also that Emu might be like Mother Nature, like Mother Ocean. Yeah, so like I'm okay with this. Like let's just, you know, but it's like it's very, very specific, okay? So anyway, by the way, also, yeah, the sword that's in his head, even if it's just, like, disturbed a little bit, like, if, like, even Usopp, a human, now granted, Usopp is pretty damn buff, he's pretty strong, but even if a human just taps this thing and it just vibrates a little bit, he gets sent into intense thralls of pain. So that's gotta suck for his everyday life, because the sword is going like right through his head, right? So if he's walking and he's like, hey Jarl, what's up? Hey, how you doing? You know, just like, you know, just constant pain wherever he goes. It must suck for that guy. Or he could be the one that betrayed King Harald, and having the sword piercing his head might just be messing with his memory. You don't know where that's going out either. They say pulling the blade out will cause him blood loss and will kill him, but we don't know that for certain, right? There's also a little bit of a gag with Brooke, where if the way I'm looking at this is correct, so Brooke has taken off his head, because he can do that, because he's being a skeleton and all, and put his head on like his crotch area, and he's just moving around, you know, playing the guitar. Like his headless body is playing the guitar with his skull, like, you know, there, like, oh, and he's also drunk. And he's like, Usopp's really drunk, huh, Nami? And Nami's like, yeah, you're one to talk, Brooke. And he's like, oh. So that's pretty funny as a gag. But anyway, Nami sits down next to Jinbei. Jinbei's also, he's sober. I mean, Jinbei can handle his booze. I think Jinbei and Nami are the best people at handling their booze here. And Jinbei's like, well, it can't be helped though. And Nami's like, yeah, it was his dream to come here, so Usopp's having a blast. You know, he's wicked drunk. Have we ever seen Usopp this drunk before? I think we've seen Usopp drunk a few times before. I don't think this is the first time we're seeing drunk Usopp. I think he also got drunk at like Whiskey Peak, and probably had a few celebrations after the battles were over in certain arcs, like he probably got toasted. But like, we're really seeing drunk Usopp just having a ball here, okay? And so Nami's like, yeah, you know, it was his and Luffy's dream to make it all the way here. And Jinbei's like, oh, I could tell for sure. So they're having a fun time, if nothing else. So then we see Sanji, see what's up with him. And Sanji's looking around and he's like, hey, where's Gerd at? Haven't seen her around. I should go look for her. So Sanji's gonna go try to see what's up with Gerd, okay? It's also a really interesting scene because Sanji's on the floor looking around for Gerd, and you just see a bunch of giant feet around him because, you know, they're tiny. So imagine being at this banquet. Sanji's literally the size of maybe not like an ant, but like a mouse, okay? And there's these giant feet just stomping around you, you know, getting drunk and having a fun time. It'd just be a crazy party setting, okay? But Sanji can fly, so it's good. So we cut over to another part of the village, where we have like a little gazebo area set up, you know, like a little outdoor pavilion. And Gerd is tending, because she's a doctor. She's the doctor of the new Giant Warrior Pirates. So she is tending to the two guards that were delivered from Aris Castle, right? And she's going over them and she's like, dude, Road, one of them has massive bone fractures. Another one got stabbed. What happened to these giants? What could have possibly done this to them, right? The one that has the bone fractures is the one that got crushed by the arrow Nomi by Gunko. There was another one that got stabbed. I really don't think Shamrock did anything in that encounter. I don't think he took out his sword and stabbed anybody. I think it was all Gunko there. I think Gunko, we see her crushing the bones of the one giant, probably took out her arrow and like stabbed the other one. And I think Shamrock was just there, like just chilling out the whole time. But anyway, yeah, Gerd is obviously curious. She has treated their wounds and they're in bed, and you can see them behind her like sleeping in their beds, so they're gonna be okay. I know a lot of people were curious about those two unnamed guards. I think in one translation, one of them was called like Bjarni or something, but I think that's an incorrect translation. I don't think either of them were named. But anyway, yeah, she's curious though. She's like, okay, what happened? Out with it. Why did you bring them here? What happened? And then Road is coming up with like, because he's like, oh man, I can't tell her the whole story about breaking into the castle and trying to rob it and meeting Scopper and the key and Loki. Like, he can't explain all that to Gerd. So Road is trying to come up with some bullshit excuse like, nothing, Gerd. I was up there doing research for my block castle, and I just found the front door all sliced up and these guards dead. And then Gerd is like giving him the death glare of just like, you're sweating bullets right now, Road. Is there something wrong? And Road is like, well, that's because you keep looking at me. Like, he's thinking that. He's like, yeah, of course I'm sweating bullets. You're very attractive. Oh, whatever. Anyway, yeah, no, they just need rest right now. That's all they need, Gerd. And Gerd is like, okay, well, I'm gonna go see Elder Jarl then and probably report to him. No, you shouldn't do that. That'll ruin the party for him, you know? Party, everybody's having fun. How about we just hang out here and I can talk about my Lego castle? you know? And Gerd is looking at him and just kind of like, because Gerd knows all about Rhodes' bullshit, right? You know, so she knows when something's up. So Rhodes is trying to think about like a way out of this. Like we hear him in like an internal monologue. He's like, oh man, I can't let everybody know that Loki is, like the Straw Hats are trying to free Loki, because then I'll be accused of this too. I'll be roped into all of this. You know, if the Straw Hats end up getting banished, I'll get banished too. That's not cool. But Rhodes also mentions like he doesn't honestly care about Loki being freed. He doesn't want to be like accused of that crime, but personally he's like, you know, honestly, if Loki gets freed and just leaves Elbaf and just destroys a bunch of islands that are not on Elbaf, I don't care. I don't give a shit. So he's just hoping that he leaves, which Loki might very well do that because he was out to sea when he was captured by Shanks, right? So it's like, yeah, I just hope he just gets out of here, leaves Elbaf, and raises hell outside of the island, and I don't care what happens to him then. But meanwhile, while that's happening, Rhodes realizes that he's there trying to like, you know, think of an idea. So Rhodes picks up her axe, takes the blunt side of the axe and just smacks Rhodes right over the head with it, knocks him clean out, and is like, okay, spill it. You know something. You tell me right now. You know, and Rhodes is just on the ground, all beat to crap, missing teeth, giant, you know, whelp on his head, probably has a boner, and is just like, okay, I'll tell you everything. Okay, and so he proceeds to tell her everything. Okay, so that's up with that. Now, moving into the Underworld, the last, like there's a few more pages, but like the last setting of the chapter, we now move down to the Underworld. Luffy and Zoro have arrived at Loki's tree. All right, well, the only tree. I mean, there's other trees, but this is the big tree. So Loki is chained up still, and he is still bleeding out and just like unconscious from all of the damage he incurred from Gunko's attacks, like her 10 different attacks that she did against him, and then Shamrock's Cerberus, you know, attack. So he's there bleeding out pretty bad, and Zoro mentions, like, man, this guy's pretty big, even for a giant. We later find out, yeah, he's about the size or comparable to the size of Oars. He also has purple hair, so keep that in mind. Loki does canonically have purple hair. Oars was like, I think, 68, 69 meters, something like that, you know, nice. So maybe Loki might, he's also very lanky and tall, so Loki might be like 72, he might be like a little bit higher up than even Oars, but he's a big giant. We're gonna see the full scale of that at the end of the chapter. So Zoro's like, hey, you know, this guy looks a little different from the way you described him, and Luffy's like, well, yeah, he didn't look all beat to shit last time I saw him, what happened, right? So he's like, Loki, say something, and Loki's like, so he doesn't talk, but you can see like the breath, you know, because it's cold out. So you see like the breath leaving his mouth. So it's like, okay, at least he's still alive. He's still breathing. Well, we gotta help him. He's about to die. We gotta let him go. And Zoro is still like, hey, Luffy, we don't owe this guy shit. Right? I still haven't spoken to him yet, and we should not take his bad reputation lightly, and he's as big as Oars, if not bigger. Like, if we just let this guy go and he starts rampaging and, like, wiping a bunch of places out, you know, let's make sure to talk to him first, okay? So, Zoro immediately, when he says, like, let's figure this out, let's talk to him first, jumps up on Loki's body and then proceeds to kick him right in one of his wounds. One of his open, gaping wounds, probably the one he got from the Cerberus. It's just like, hold on, let's talk to him. Bam! And Loki's like, ah! Why? Oh, man. And he lets out a scream, and then he also is just like, damn you! Why? And then he also just kind of, he yells, okay. So Zoro is like, all right, well, it seems like those wounds are real. Really, Zoro? Really? That's what you needed to do? You needed to, like, wait, let's see if these wounds are real. The only way to tell if a wound is real is to kick him in the wound. Excuse me. He also, like, grabs some blood. Like, you could just go up and, like, yeah, this is real blood. Like, Zoro, you should be well acquainted with seeing, you know, wounds, all right? You've been sliced up all those times by Mihawk. You almost cut off your own feet at one point. Like, you should be able to tell when a wound is fake or not, like, instead of just kicking the dude. But, like, all right, whatever. So he kind of like gets up for a minute, but then his head goes back down again. He loses consciousness again. And Luffy's like, oh, what if he died, Zoro? And Zoro's like, if he's dead, that was simply his fate. And he's like, you can be a real jerk, right? And Zoro is like, I guess this was enough for Zoro, because he's like, well, all right, tell you what, I'll unlock him. We can talk to him after. You know, I'm just going to leave one of the sea prism cuffs on his ankle. So we're going to leave him a little bit chained up, but we're going to let most of the chains go. And we can talk to him more once he regains consciousness. That seems fair. And Luffy's like, okay, I'll go fetch Chopper. And Zoro's like, well, he might be a little bit too far away. It would probably be quicker to just go back to the village and find a doctor there. He's like, yeah, but if we go to the village, then if they find out we're freeing Loki, then they might kick us out. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good point. You know, they'll probably banish us, won't they? And it's just like, well, we got no time. I mean, we got to get a doctor down here. We got to find a doctor. So Chopper or somebody from the village, somebody we got to get help for Loki once he's freed, okay? So Zoro jumps up on Loki's arm or his leg, I think. No, it was his arm. And there's his shackle right here. So I don't know if there's like multiple locks on Loki. So Zoro has to take like the big ass key and like, you know, like, okay, unlocked that one. Okay, unlock that one. It's like Aizen and Muken where he has like 27 locks that are holding him down, right? I think it might be something like that. So Zoro goes up there and he starts to unlock one of the shackles, right? And Zoro, they're also talking about getting meat at the same time because you can't get better if you don't have any meat. And Zoro just looks over at all the dead animals that are just being strewn about in front of Loki. You know, the dead wolf and the dead mammoth. I've never had mammoth. How do you think mammoth tasted? I don't know. But anyway, so there's all these dead animals or dying animals. There's like, well, there's plenty of meat over there. And Luffy gets pissed. He's like, hey, Zoro, those are my friends. I don't eat my friends. The rule is whenever I use my Conqueror's Haki on an animal, they have become my friends. And we see that with Ruskaina and we see this here. I guess that is the underlying, you know, thing there. It's like if Luffy uses Conqueror's Haki on something, they are now his subordinate or his friend, I suppose. And he doesn't eat them, right? Fish are friends, not food. Okay. They say, yeah, I could just go hunt in the mountains later and kill some stuff out there, but whatever. Okay. But it is also interesting that they Oda takes time out of the day to actually specify that. Like, hey, anyone who becomes my friends is off the menu. I don't know if that's relevant or something, but maybe that will be relevant later. Maybe he's like, I'm friends with Loki. No one can kill him or something like that. I don't know. So Luffy goes to run off to find a doctor. Zoro continues to free Loki. Then Luffy looks up and he sees one of the cloud canoes falling out of the sky. And on top of the canoe, as riding inside of it, is the new giant warrior pirates. We have Hiruden, Stancing, Gerd, Goldberg, Road, and Sanji. Sanji is also on this group as well, and they're heading down, and they're falling down, like, fast, okay? So the clouds have actually disappeared from the paddles, and it's actually explained that the cloud canoe cannot exist underneath the sun layer. Okay, so they mentioned this earlier with the painters and stuff. I'm not sure if it's the same principle, but you have to be high enough. Like, we've seen this at Skypiea. You have to be at a certain altitude for the island clouds to exist. Once you go below that, they disappear. Nami figured out a way around that so she can make the Milky Road with her Climatact on the surface, but naturally, island clouds cannot exist at that altitude. So Hiruden heard from, so Gerd heard from Road about the whole, like, we're gonna free Loki situation. Sanji, I guess, arrived at that same time, too, and Gerd got really upset and was like, we need to tell Hiruden, we need to figure this out, like, now, we need to go. And so they tell Hiruden and Stanson and everybody, and Hiruden's like, we can't let them free Loki, we gotta go, get in the canoe. The island cloud won't support us in the underworld. It's okay, we don't have time to take the elevator, we don't have time to take the bridge, we can't jump down, it's too far. So it's like, hopefully the buoyancy will last long enough for us to get to the bottom, you okay? And maybe they were thinking of using it like a glider or something like that, I don't know. But it didn't work, and they are falling down fast, okay? So Luffy sees them falling. He goes into a giant Gumu Gumu no balloon. I don't think he uses giant balloon. He just uses Gum Gum balloon. So Luffy's trained. Remember that scene back at Marineford when Sengoku was about to punch him in his Buddha form and Luffy had to use Gear 3rd giant balloon in order to block the punch, right? That's kind of what this reminds me of. He's just as big, but he's not using Gear 3rd apparently. So that's, he's trained. So the entire canoe lands on Luffy's balloon and cushions the impact, and there's a brief moment where Hiruden is crying tears of joy, like, Straw Hat, thank you for saving us, but I don't know if you guys know anything about physics, but you have a balloon, and you land on the balloon, and it kind of, like, compresses, and then kind of sends you flying off, right? So there's this brief moment where they hit the balloon and Hiruden and Luffy are like face to face, like, Straw Hat, thank you so much. Wait, what? Oh, and it just got bounced away and they go flying off into another part of the forest. And then we just cut away and we see them after that secondary fall, I guess I should say. So, they're beat up, they're bleeding a little bit, but I think it's more for comedic effect here. They're not dead, all right, which is thankful. Everybody survived the crash. They are now all sitting in front of Loki. So Loki is chained up. I think Zoro is still on top of Loki, like just going through and freeing all of his shackles, while the new Giant Warrior Pirates are talking to Luffy, and they're trying to convince him to not free Loki. Okay, now, something I really like about this scene, and the way that Hiruden is trying to convince Luffy to not free Loki, okay? So up until this point, a lot of times whenever Loki's name was mentioned to the other giants, they talked about how, oh, he's the accursed prince. He's the shame of Elbaf. He killed King Harald. He's pure evil. Talking about him like he's the most horrible giant that ever did exist, okay? So that's a little bit like when you're talking about somebody and they say, oh, they're the most evil person that ever lived. I mean, like, that's a description, but that's a heavy amount of stuff to take in about that. And it's understandable that, like, Zoro is even a little skeptical. Like, he wasn't 100% on Loki's side, but he was also like, I don't really know about this. Like, they keep talking about him and stuff. I don't know what kind of person he's actually going to be, right? So that's why he wanted to talk to him. He settled for kicking him in the wound, but whatever. Hiruden and the other Giant Warrior Pirates, or the new Giant Warrior Pirates, are basically trying to level with Luffy here. And they're basically like, listen, Straw Hat, you need to understand something about Loki, okay? This is not hyperbole. This is not like rumors that are being spread about him. We grew up with him, all right? We were all kids playing around Elbaf together. We know the kind of person he is. All right? He is a liar. He is a trickster. He is a betrayer. He's never formed any sort of like coherent relationship with somebody. He always lies. He always betrays. Even if he does say something or do something that seems good, there's always an ulterior a motive for it. And we know that because we've grown up with him. All right? This is like a first-hand account of the kind of man Loki is. Now, couple of things to bring up with this. Loki purportedly killed King Harald, who is Hiruden's dad. Hiruden does not say a word about that right now. You would think if a person was trying to convince another person to not free a murderer of their own father, they would bring that up. You think Hiruden would be like, Straw Hat, listen to me. This monster here, my half-brother Loki, killed our father. In cold blood. Please do not let him go. He is exactly where he needs to be. He didn't say that. He didn't even bring Harald up. He's talking about how, when we were kids, you can't trust him. He's cunning, ruthless, a trickster, a black-hearted and beyond redemption person that always lies and cheats, even if he's trying to be nice. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of guy he is. Right? He also says Loki is a threat to the entire world, right? So he's trying to level with him and get Luffy to understand. Luffy's kind of making as Hiruden is explaining this to them, Zoro is over there unlocking all of the cuffs, and Luffy is just like, it's just like, you can't let him free. It's like, okay. And so in the middle of this monologue where Hiruden is just like, Loki's a threat to the entire world, please, you gotta understand, right? And also, like, Stanson and Gerd and Rode, they're all there as well. Goldberg is there. They're all there, and none of them are it's like, well, Loki isn't that bad. It's like, no, they're all in agreement there. They've all grown up with him. They all know the kind of person he is. They would know better than anybody, probably, right? And then it's at that moment that Zoro is like, they're in the middle, like, you can't let him free, whatever you do. Oh, well, sorry, I think you're already late. You're too late for this one. And then Hiruden's like, hey, wait a minute, what? And they look over, and the chains begin to rattle. This is what chains sound like. This is what Elbaf chains sound like. And then, this is gonna look so sick in the anime. I can't wait for it. The anime's coming back soon, guys. We're almost done. We're almost through the hiatus. It's the end of February, so we only got like a month and a half left, like 6 more weeks. Egghead's coming back, and eventually we're gonna get to this moment, probably like a year from now or something, but like, it's gonna be so cool, right? So anyway, the chains begin to rattle, and we get to see the final double-page spread. Loki. He has not become simply unchained, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know from the cinematic masterpiece that is the 9th Dragon Ball Z movie, Loki has become unbound! When he begins to rise up, dude, the music that's going to be playing at this point, the sky and the way that's going to look. I hope at this point they do some real stylized shit where like the entire underworld goes red when this happens. Like there's just red light for no reason. Like everything's tinted that way. And then like crazy intense music starts playing. Like, a good soundtrack that would work for this is, I think it's called Difficult. It's the soundtrack when Kuma is charging the Urusasa shock at Thriller Bark. And it's that really dramatic like da, 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 da. That would work really well for this scene. And Loki takes off his shackles. They fall off of his big giant body, and he regains consciousness, and he hoists himself up. Oh, man. And by the way, how good do you think that's gotta feel for his back? Laying down on the cold, hard ground for 6 years, finally being able to get back up and just be like, oh, hold on a minute, I gotta crack my back. Oh, man, it's gonna feel like a magnitude 17 earthquake. You know what I mean? Just like, oh! He gets up, Stanson and the rest of the new Giant Warrior Pirates are like, Loki, no! And Luffy's like, I could have sworn he was unconscious. And then that's when Loki reaches down and he grabs his giant hammer and he begins to pick it up, and Hiruden is like, now Hiruden, the other new Giant Warrior Pirates are all freaking out, like the eyes bulging out of their skull, like, Loki, no! But Hiruden is serious. Hiruden's like, Loki, stop it! Put down Ragnir! And then that's the end of the chapter, as we just see Loki covered in blood, but with a smile on his face, like, ha 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 ha. And then that's the end of the chapter, as he's picking up his hammer, which I'm assuming is named Ragnir. Could have been named Ragnar, very close to that, but good enough, I suppose. All right, and no break next week, guys. There's no break next week. Okay. Oh, my God. Oh, dude. Let's take bets. What's the first thing Loki's gonna do? What is the first thing Loki is gonna do? I need to know. Like, because, like, he has literally been sitting there just building his rage. He has that little, like, he's been charging his overdrive for the last 6 years, and he finally gets a chance to use it. What is the first thing he's hitting with that hammer? All right, like, is he gonna hit Hiruden just because he's there? Is he gonna turn around and smack the Yggdrasil tree, and the whole tree, he hits it so damn hard it sparks on fire and the whole tree gets lit on fire, and we're gonna have to do something with the, like, same deal with Wano when the entire festival got caught on fire by Orochi, like the whole tree starts going up and the whole arc is them trying to escape the tree being lit on fire as it falls down. Is he gonna try to stomp on Luffy, or is he gonna ignore everybody there and just be like, I got somebody I need to kill. I got someone that looks like red-haired Shanks that needs a date with this hammer. You know, and he just starts moving off. Now, he is still shackled. Zoro was true to his word. One of his legs is still shackled. So, is it shackled to the tree? Like, is he gonna try to move and then be like, ugh, what the hell? Ugh. Or you feel like Loki, like all the sea prism they had to use to contain him. And Luffy tried to use the key earlier, by the way, and he, you know, touched the sea prism and he immediately got weakened, which is the reason Zoro had to do it. So, I don't know. He might be still chained to the tree. He might not be able to break the chain. It might just be too thick for that. But he is now fully conscious, and we are now going to probably get to see what his devil fruit ability is. Because chained up the way he was weakened, but he was still able to be conscious and talk and have a conversation and all that stuff. Now that he's freed of like 95% of his bounds, of his chains, he is now able to probably do something with his fruit. He might be able to instantly heal all the wounds that he incurred with his devil fruit ability. It's probably maybe a mythical zone or a Logia or something. He was able to regain consciousness right away. He was able to regain consciousness right away. So that's going to be really cool to see, like, what his fruit ability is. And I'm thinking we're going to see that next chapter. Oh, man, I knew Loki was going to get freed soon. Also, but with his height and how big he is, he has to have more ancient giant blood in him than, like, a standard giant does. Even the ones that have horns, right? Like, he might be, like, maybe, okay, wait, so Hiruden's mother was the giant that was off of Elbaf, and then so that's why he couldn't be the proper prince. He's not really royalty. King Harald, though, clearly had ancient giant blood in him, so maybe he had a lot of ancient giant blood and he ripped his horns off, so maybe he just took after that. We don't know anything about Loki's mom either, so maybe she had ancient giant blood as well, who knows. But Loki is a big boy. He's a big dude, and he's freed now, and he's got his hammer, and he's got people to bash. All right, like he's got an agenda. Let's just put it that way. All right. So yeah, that's how it goes. All right. Well, no break next week, so we're gonna cut back and see what's going on there, and see chapter 1 of Loki's rampage. Where's it gonna go from here? Da 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 da. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Techie 101 signing out. Welcome to the One Piece world, Loki. Remember, he's got purple hair. That might be relevant. Also remember, older women, it might be Emu, and then also Luffy does not eat his friends. There's the takeaways from this chapter. Later, everybody.